Hi everyone, welcome to today's presentation of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. My name is Jason Nicolau and I am an engagement manager here at Sikich. Our technology offerings go well beyond ERP alone. Sikich offers a variety of services from business intelligence to infrastructure planning and even security services. Our journey today will start with an introduction to BC. We'll take a look at the role-centered architecture, navigation, and I will introduce you to some powerful integrations. From there, we will explore the different areas of the system that are important for you to see on your journey to choosing your next ERP solution, Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. Before we move on to the solution presentation, I need to point out that we encounter two types of users within organizations. The consumers of information are those folks responsible for developing the vision for the organization. They need to be able to access data quickly and easily. Typically, this group is not entering a large amount of transactions. The second group still needs access to the information, and they have the added responsibility of executing all of those transactions that drive the data. They will use dashboards, role centers, and notifications just like the consumers of information, but they also need integrated tools to drive efficiency, like the seamless connection to Outlook. So please allow me to introduce you to Business Central. BC can be structured to allow users to easily switch between roles and companies. We can set up your accounting system to look at each location as a separate company, or we can simply add them as a location. We can even use dimensions to qualify transactions for reporting. We'll talk about that here more in just a moment. Before we leave here, let's discuss mobility. BC offers experiences that can be personalized for both a tablet and a phone. The tablet experience is more touchscreen oriented to allow users to access the full power of BC on a smaller screen. That same information that's presented to users via the web client can now be accessed while on the go through their tablet. In fact, this experience is extended even further with the use of a phone experience. The phone experience adds buttons at the bottom of our screen that give us the ability to access those charts and graphs, to execute transactions, and even see lists of information that are important while we're on the go. Let's go back to our web client and explore our dashboard. At the top of our dashboard, we'll see a variety of menus. As the business manager, it's important for me to have access to all of these areas inside of the solution so I can get to the information that's important for me to make quick decisions. Our first stop on our exploration of the dashboard will be the Assisted Setup Wizards. Here we have a variety of wizards that go beyond simply adding company information. We can set up approval workflows and even a direct connection to Dynamics 365 for sales. Next, we'll take a look at Intelligent Cloud Insights. These insights are our first exposure to artificial intelligence. Microsoft recently posted that they are in need of 2,000 folks to keep up with their AI goals. This tool also displays a strong integration to Power BI. The business manager will be presented with information such as the cash available, profitability, and other details that the intelligence engine is pooling in order to present to the user. In fact, at the top, we even see some Cortana intelligence trying to help us better predict our cash flows. As we navigate back to our dashboard, please allow me to note that moving back inside of Business Central no longer cancels the action. For those users out there that have used NAV in the past, we know that escape or navigating backwards canceled the action. Inside of Business Central, activities are auto-saved so that all of your information is always protected. As we revisit our dashboard, we'll see another exposure to artificial intelligence. You'll see these headlines change every 8 seconds. The customer insights scrolling are important to your organization. The intelligence engine is grabbing that information and updating it as frequently as you would like. This can be a role-based notification, or it can be universal for the entire organization. To the right, we see the option to start some new forms as well as some common reports. As we scroll through our dashboard, we'll see an extension of the activity queues. Dollar amounts as well as statistical information are presented to the users. These users also have the ability to change the thresholds that are driving those colored stripes to indicate urgency. Here, users can set up those thresholds, or they can be set up at an organizational level so that everyone in the organization understands when and how they should follow up on specific activities. New to the dashboard are embedded videos. These are a great way to create a comfort level for your new users or to aid in onboarding so that your folks have a consistent experience, and if they forget something, they know that the resource is readily available. As I scroll through my dashboard, you will see a variety of other activities. We'll see charts and graphs that are drillable. So if I need to execute some research, I can do that right from my screen. We'll see those list views. These views provide quick information to our users. If this information is sensitive, security can block users from seeing these particular pieces of information. The dashboard presents data to users and is also the starting point for deeper investigation. Activity queues are real-time and drillable. This is our first list view today. These act and feel very much like Excel. Users have the ability to add fields as they see fit. This is made possible by the separation between the user interface and the data tables themselves. Posting dates can be dropped into the screen so that the next time the user visits this page, they'll have the ability to see the posting date and any other information as they see fit. If this information is no longer required, that information can be hidden and becomes one of the options for the future. The beauty behind the architecture is the fact that streamlining your user experience doesn't keep Business Central from tracking the data. It simply means that the information is not present on your screen. List pages also show us fact boxes. These fact boxes can include things like Power BI reports, customer statistics, and other details that aid in the user experience. As I scroll through the sales orders, you'll see the Power BI graphic change. That's because in real time, it's tracking the activity that's present on my particular screen. If I'm curious about another piece of information about this particular customer, I do have some statistics that are drillable as well. Something like the payments can be used to do further research. I can drill into this particular payment in order to see things like the posted sales invoice or even the GL entries. Now I'm able to view the GL accounts and the debit and credit amounts to further understand what's happening inside of my financial system. Before we leave the sales order, I'd like to point out a few more tools that aid in telling the story. The idea is to give users enough information so that everyone will tell the same story, and they'll all visit the same location in order to gather that information. The first tool allows users to drag and drop files into the solution and tie it to that sales order, to that purchase order, to that sales invoice or purchase invoice. The idea here is to provide deeper understanding, a deeper meaning, so that users, once again, can only tell one version of the truth because only one version of the truth is available. As we drill into the sales order itself, there are multiple options available for enhancing that particular story. Attachments can be added from shared drives in order to attach files as well. In fact, I can even use a tool that allows me to access a pool of incoming documents. These incoming documents can be tied to documents inside of Business Central with an OCR tool or manually assigned through a process that we'll cover in another session. If I need to further qualify this transaction, I can add dimensions. Dimensions give us the ability to further qualify this transaction without using sub-accounts and sub-ledgers inside of my general ledger, inside of my chart of accounts. Here I can choose which department to tie the sales order to and allow my reporting to slice my data and present information based on what's important for my organization. Power BI is a tool that can combine multiple data sources to create visualizations based on the relationship between that data. This takes data analysis to the next level. Microsoft gives us a tool that is embedded right inside of the Business Central dashboard. This tool essentially creates a dashboard right inside of a dashboard. In order to access this information, I could simply drill into it just like every other part of my Business Central dashboard. Please note that I'm still inside of Business Central. I didn't have to log in or log out in order to access this information. If I'd like to see the data that's driving a particular graphic, I can see that. If I'd like to change the way things are sorted, if I'd like to export the data, I have that full power at my fingertips by simply accessing that part of my dashboard. The user community has demanded stronger integrations and more tools to make decisions faster. With a few clicks, I can get to information that used to be a request to IT, make my decision, and move on to the next one. Another example of the Microsoft Stack at work is within your Outlook email. Many of us start our day inside of Outlook in order to understand what to expect for the day, as well as to build our action item list. Microsoft understands this requirement and has built additional tools to allow us to do that faster and more efficiently. First, they've built a window inside of Outlook to allow us to view information from inside of Business Central. Second, they've added tools to Business Central to allow for contact management. This tool allows Business Central to recognize the correlation between this email address and this particular company. This gives us the ability to view pertinent information about the organization from right inside of Outlook. So during that call with your customer or with your vendor, you're able to collect more information and complete the transaction right on the phone. In fact, they've taken this to the next level as well by adding some artificial intelligence. If I would like to create a quote and actually execute transactions from right inside of Outlook, I can do that. In fact, by starting that quote, Business Central has sent the artificial intelligence robot to review the body of my email. Please note that I did not include a part number, but Business Central has the ability to look inside of the item list and identify the suggestion that has been made right on your screen. If I accept that suggestion, as a user, I've just created a quote that was auto-populated in the header field as well as the lines in the body, including the quantity. As I scroll, we'll see additional details that are important. In fact, there's even pricing included because of the profile I've set up for this particular client. From here, I do have the ability to send this quote on, whether it needs to be approved or emailed or sent to the client. I can do that from right inside of Outlook. In fact, if I'd like to go ahead and continue the process, I can make this an order or even send it directly to an invoice. Now I can actually execute transactions from right inside of Outlook and complete my job tasks faster and quicker without ever switching applications. Business Central is a full financial platform, so I'm not going to run through basic transactions and common functions today. Instead, I will focus on the differentiators for BC. Our first stop will be the chart of accounts. I'll use the search tool in order to navigate to the chart of accounts. Please note that I was able to type only part of my desired location inside of the search box. And the new search tool inside of Business Central has segregated those results. I have the ability to look at things on my current page, to navigate to other pages and tasks, and I can even go directly to reports and analysis. For today's exercise, let's move on to the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is structured in a way that allows it to be more flat, and that's because of those dimensions that I mentioned earlier. If I'd like to drill into a balance, I can do that right from inside of my chart of accounts. Here's that department code dimension presenting itself right inside of those ledger entries that are driving that balance that we viewed in the original screen. If I'd like to drill further into this particular entry, I have that same ability to navigate right inside of Business Central. Once again, I can see those debits and credits, which accounts were impacted by this transaction, and any other details that might be necessary in order to complete my research. Let's take a deeper look at dimensions through a sales invoice. I'll use that search box once again and access my sales invoice list. The sales invoice list looks very similar to the sales order list. What you'll find inside of Business Central is that when one form has been created or one process has been created, it'll be very similar when you learn that in different areas. I think of things like sales orders versus processing purchase orders, sales invoices, purchase invoices. Once you've learned how to complete one task, you've actually learned how to complete multiple tasks. As I look at the sales invoice list, we'll have those same fact boxes. Here I have customer statistics, as well as the ability to drag and drop documents or other attachments that might be required in order for me to understand more about this particular invoice. As I open the invoice, we'll see a familiar data layout. The idea is to give users fast tabs to view information. Our first layer of information is presented as a fast tab, and the promoted information is information that everybody needs to see. This is a requirement for the entire organization. This is something that everyone needs to see all the time, regardless of their role. The next layer of information is important information. This is information that many folks need to see. In fact, there's even one more layer. This might be a more specialized set of information that not everyone needs to see. This can either be controlled through security or through personalizing your user experience. There is a large amount of information that can be captured on each invoice. For this particular invoice, I'd like to point out the shipping and billing detailed information. This gives us the ability to list one customer or vendor in the header and bill somebody else, and also the ability to ship to other locations or to buy from other locations per that vendor or customer agreement. The next question might be, how do I classify all of this information so that I can report against it? This is where those dimensions will come into play. Each invoice has the ability to be assigned different dimensions. These dimensions can be carried through each GL posting that's associated with this particular invoice. I can choose which office will be associated with this particular activity, which supply type is required for this particular transaction, and these can be defaulted. Every time I enter a transaction for a particular customer, I have the ability to add information about that particular customer. I can classify a customer by size. I could classify a customer by type of product, by geographic location. All those options are available to me with dimensions. This means that I no longer have to create subledgers, subaccounts, and those other tools that have been used in order to analyze and evaluate your data to the next level. Now you can attach any dimension that you may need to this invoice. Something like the servicing location, the type of patient, or the type of product can all be important for your organization. So now when you develop reports, you can use that classification to slice your data. Complete this sentence. I'd like to see P&L by, and that will be the foundation of how we build dimensions for your organization. Our next stop on our journey is the payment journal. This tool is designed to collect those payment suggestions so that we can batch process our payments to our vendors and our employees. Please note that vendors and employees have been separated so that batches can be ran in the frequency that matches the requirements of both of those groups. These engines that run will go through your payables and identify those that need to be paid in a timely manner. You can establish filters that can be used to streamline those batches or narrow the results of those suggestions so that you could streamline the payment process, those payables that need special attention. In fact, you can even add additional qualifiers. If cash flow is tight, you can set a predetermined amount. If you'd like to pay by vendor priority, you can establish that for you as well. In fact, if you'd like to summarize by vendor, you can apply specific lines as well. The idea behind the engine is for Business Central to search through all of your payables and make suggestions. And on those vendor cards, the more information that you complete, the more that will be auto-populated in order to streamline the suggestions that the engine is making for your accounts payable process. The invoices here are in red because these are past due. The idea is to indicate urgency and allow your accounting team to make sure they're making the best decisions as far as what items need to be paid and those that don't. In fact, this list of suggestions is flexible so that you don't have to rerun the batch if you need to remove a vendor or suggestion from your list. Simply deleting the line does not delete the payable, it only deletes a suggestion for this batch. From here, I do have the ability to batch process. If I'd like to print checks for the entire group, I can do that. I also have connections to my modern banking tools that we can discuss later in another session. Now that we have seen how the logic works, we can work with your team to identify what components need to be on their dashboard to optimize the way that payables are managed today. Our next stop will be the recurring journal, and that will include allocations. As I look at my recurring general journal, I will go back to my search engine right inside of Business Central. And here I see both a fixed and variable recurring entry. Many times these entries need to be allocated. Those allocations can be driven by a percentage that can be arbitrarily set, or they can be set with a statistical general ledger account that will further allocate that based on consumption. For example, this particular recurring journal line includes 24 hours from one of our consultants. 4 hours will be charged to the administrative department and 20 hours to the sales department. And those calculations that go along with it are automatically executed by Business Central so that you can slice your data and identify those areas that need more attention. You'll be able to create budgets and reports that allow you to keep an eye on all areas of your business. BC includes foundational budget tools for your business. General ledger budgets are designed to allow us to manage our organization by observing balances inside of our chart of accounts. These are primarily built through the use of the import and export function inside of Business Central that is built in and ready for use as soon as you open the box. In fact, balances can be observed throughout the year to keep track of expenses, to keep track of the progress inside of your organization based on what you've predicted. These budgets can be sent to each department, populated, and then sent back to be aggregated inside of Excel, and then once again leveraging this import feature to auto-populate all of these fields to establish that budget. This is further facilitated if you create a shared file in SharePoint that becomes a working, living, breathing shared document until it is finalized so that you can lock it down and then import it back into Business Central. Once again, This balance can be viewed on your screen at all times to see actuals versus budgeted amounts and allow you to make decisions and correct problems before they become a major issue. Along with those modern banking tools identified when we discuss the payment journal, Business Central also offers the ability to reconcile your bank accounts right inside of the solution. This side-by-side reconciliation offers users the ability to go ahead and import their bank statement and then match that either automatically or manually. And if you try to execute this function and there's matches that don't make sense, there is the opportunity to remove that match and move forward with that matching process to ensure accuracy inside of your bank account as well as inside of your general ledger accounts that control that bank account inside of your chart of accounts. The process does include the idea of keeping track of previous reconciliations, cash receipts journals, payment journals, even positive pay exports. The idea here is to create that one version of the truth by linking to your online bank account. Those can be refreshed or an automatic import can be created so that the process of the bank reconciliation becomes less time consuming and much more efficient because of the real-time connection to your bank. There are a variety of other options inside of this tool that we can cover at a later date. This process ensures continuity between all of your systems. Reporting is a critical piece for any organization so that they can understand what's happening inside of their organization as well as what the future holds, what trends are visible. And the built-in tool to build those financial statements is called an account schedule. The account schedule is built very much like an Excel output. Here we can see GL accounts are used to populate the specific lines on the report itself. And computations can be completed inside of the report as well. Here we see P1 to P8 correlating with P1 to P8 here in our left column. So the output is what's called an overview. The overview provides an organizational look at what's happening inside of your organization. This look can be viewed by day, week, month, quarter, year, or your accounting period that you've identified. We can change that look, and those values inside of the report become drillable. I can walk through time and see previous periods or next periods in order to understand more about my data. Once again, these are drillable values, so if I'm curious what's driving a particular balance, I could see that information on my screen and I could drill into that amount. And when I drill into that amount, I have the same power that we've shown previously, where I could see the posted documents as well as those GL entries that go along with it. That can include customer ledger entries or even detailed customer ledger entries. These entries, once again, allow me to see those GL accounts and the direct dollar impact to each one of those GL accounts. I can see both sides of the T accounts directly on my screen. As I navigate back to my overview of my account schedule, I see other options. I can filter by department, one of those dimensions we've talked about several times. I can filter this by customer group. I can even apply a GL budget for those year-to-date versus budgeted amounts. But I can also change my column layout. This gives me the ability to see a side-by-side comparison of my performance for my sales, administrative, and production departments. Think of this view as your P&L by. This, I can say P&L by my sales department, by my admin department, production, whatever it might be. And those, once again, provide drillable values for me to further explore my data. If I'd like to share this report, I do have the option to print the report. If you'd like a hard copy, that is always an option, but I can also create a PDF, a Word, or an Excel document. In fact, I can even schedule this report. If I have a huddle, say every Tuesday morning, Monday afternoon, I can create this income statement and send it out to the folks that are involved so that we can discuss the details and make decisions faster because we're all armed with the same information. In fact, if I'd like to go ahead and send this to Excel, I can do that as well. This export allows me to either create a new document or update an existing document. This is especially useful for those organizations that create workbooks and they add tabs for each new time period. Using this tool allows you to maintain that workbook and can be further enhanced once again with a SharePoint directory, a OneDrive that allows all of your users to access that particular file. Of course, our teams will be able to work with you in order to establish the correct level of security and level of access to those reports. Thank you for joining me today in our exploration of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central.